everybody had a safe and wonderful new year. Please keep in mind that discipline is the key to your success in trading. In this video, I want to talk solely about the head and shoulders pattern. We're going to go over some examples that we've been tracking this year. Some of these been able to make us money, and one we actually called one of the tops at one of our peaks this year on the push up with it. Uh, so we're also going to cover a few things that Thomas Bukowski says about the head and shoulders pattern. So this case, we have an upward sloping. Actually, most of us just genuinely think that the neckline is going to be level, but actually, the level neckline head and shoulder patterns is actually a small percentage of the patterns that we're able to find. Upward and downward sloping are very close in percentage rates of which ones you're going to find. In this case, we do have an upward sloping. Some of the things that we look for, we would like to see the shoulders just near the same height. We would like to see volume included in the move. So in the shoulder coming down in your left shoulder, we would like to see some volume selling off. And the head on the way back up, we would like to see some volume coming into it, just like we see here, to help propel it up. Then when it pulls back, it doesn't hurt to see some volume in this armpit here down in this shoulder on the way down. Usually the breakouts are on average volume, the actual breakout. Um, so this is natural gas, and you can see the way natural gas traded had made a nice move, breaking out, made a nice move, come down, based at the 200, put in a little bit of flagging here, and then broke lower. So let's look at our next example. Affirm. This is another one that we showed in the videos, and please keep in mind all these charts were either in the videos we just found, posted in the Discord, in the Facebook group, or just posted on Twitter. Say they've all been seen. You can see a firm here. We actually had this in the video. So we got a head and shoulders pattern here. Our shoulders, we'd like to see the symmetry of the shoulders themselves to be close. Basically, the width of the shoulder, we kind of like that to be close. Both examples here are definitely not perfect, and you can see, even the second example or the first example, natural gas performed very well, breaking out. In this case, you can see volume on the way down. Volume's pretty average. You see a little bit here on the way up in this shoulder, but not a lot on the way down there. So there's not a lot of volume characteristics in that, and it performed very well on the way down. And you can see not a huge move, not a fast move down, just trending lower, flagged up, trending lower. And this can be hard to trade with options unless you're buying time. Shorting with shares is just not something that I do, but it could be a little easier to do shorting with shares. So this is ALB, and once again, we have an upward sloping head and shoulders. In this case, we topped out. Our shoulders are just about the same. You got a fat shoulder over here, a thin shoulder over there. Performed very well. Now, uh, according to Thomas Bukowski, even his examples are not what he claims that we're looking for. Uh, so the examples that he posts, you can see some variations in the shoulders themselves. But he's basically saying try to look for patterns that have, decent, within reason of the same height. But the neckline itself, a lot of times, will not be straight. And when you're dealing with an upward sloping like this, we're looking for a break below this armpit here. So the minute that this candle broke below, will actually be this candle that we pulled below that, that would have been your entry. Uh, So let's take a look at the next example. So this is AMC. This was one that we shared a couple of different charts of. This was not the same chart that was in the video. This chart was posted Facebook, Discord, Twitter. We shared it everywhere. But we did use a different chart in the video itself. But you can see right here, this is a downward sloping head and shoulders that perform very well. And a lot of times you'll see this, that, it at some point it likes to return back close to the breakout area before pulling back again. And just knowing that can help you make money. Just knowing that could, maybe you want to be the conservative trader to enter here. Nothing wrong with entering here. But you can see these are just not a cut and dry pattern. And this is what everybody, new traders always do. They're looking for something simple, something cut and dry. Uh, the trading is a game of probabilities, and we have to accept that. We're going to have to make decisions based on probabilities. You can see AMRC here, so you have a head and shoulders pattern. This one had a level neckline, but you can see when it broke out, flagged, and you'll see this a lot. You'll see a series of bear flags on the way down. And you can actually see a series of bear flags on the way up. Uh, from my experience, the ones that perform better usually don't pop up like this. They usually trend up slower and not a huge trend, 10, 15% push up and then pull back. Like this. This is not a big, fast move up. You can see flagging. Here's a flag coming up into you're putting in your high, pulling back for your low, putting in a high, pulling back for your low, and then unable to put in a higher high. So you're putting in a lower low, bring you back down to your neckline breakout. It's a really simple pattern to spot, and we trade these a lot on the intraday. We're able to make a lot of money with these, just being day traders on intraday charts. Um, and there's nothing wrong with obviously tracking them on your daily charts as well. But you can see in this case, we broke below, then come right back up. So a lot of people, that may have scared a lot of people out, especially if you're trading short-term options. This is why your entries have to be very tactical. So here we push right back up into the nine, respected the nine before pulling back. And like I say, this happens a lot. You will see the retest of your neckline a lot. And keep in mind, these are charts that are trading right now. So this is a head and shoulders on APO. It had a fast move up. Chart had a lot of relative strength into it at the time, still holding a lot of relative strength here. Um, we are below, but we have never closed below, not even thought about closing below this neckline and the 50s coming up. So there's a good chance that this pattern's just simply not going to work. And, we will see this. We will have patterns that do not work. So this is AN, daily chart. This one you have a downward sloping, definitely not perfect, but I like the downward sloping ones because usually they get volatile when they pull back on this side and they get a better move down. But every pattern, every chart, it's like, these charts kind of have a mind of their own. Each chart trades a little bit different. Every market's a little bit different as well. A lot of the uh, Thomas Bukowski's stuff that I've read has been examples he's used on a bull market, which, obviously we're in a bear market right now. You should really be looking for bull market setups in a bull market, bear market setups in a bear market. Let the trend be your friend. So this is CPE. I like this chart right now. This will be in tonight's video as well. We talked about this last week, but we did have a little head and shoulders pattern. And to me, some of these patterns look more like crowns, like the crown jewels. So basically, you can see in this case, this shoulder is much higher than that shoulder. The size, the width, if we look at it from this point to this point, it's close to about the same. Not a lot of volume in here on the move up or move down. There was some in here, but you can see the pattern still performed, didn't have a whole lot of volume characteristics, and you still got a nice move down. It's not a big pattern, so obviously you wouldn't be expecting the biggest move. This is CCJ. This one is kind of crazy here. Um, it's not even the truest neckline, but you can still see that you had a shoulder, a head, a shoulder. Neckline's crazy. Uh, Definitely not right. Like this is definitely not textbook. You're not touching on your neckline over here, not touching on your neckline here, but it was still able to perform. Unfortunately, the performance on this one was basically a big gap down and then trending back up. So right here, you could have looked for an entry here, breaking back below your armpit, which would have been this candle bringing it back down. Definitely not the best performing pattern, but I just wanted to show some examples of some of the better patterns, that perform better than some of the ones that just haven't performed that well. So this is CAPR. You can see this is the chart that we had the little inverted scallop up here and got a nice push up, but on the way down, it stopped and put in a head and shoulders pattern here. It's downward sloping. You can see the break was pretty volatile. Come back up, retested your breakout, your neckline, retested your breakout, and just happens to be your nine, and then trended back down. So ENOV, this is another one that's It started to work, run right into your 50. So having you always check your support and resistance levels because a lot of times, this is what will keep them from performing. Cost. So this one's recent. Head and shoulders pattern here broke down, flagging. Will we see another move down? That's what we're looking for here. Breakout. Here's the flag. See if we can get another move down off of this. You could easily retest your neckline as well. All right, so DVN, this one is not perfect. Your shoulder, the symmetry in your shoulders is not good at all. The size of this one's skinnier. Look how fat this one is. The highs are close on the peaks. So when we broke down, this one's not performing very well. We got a nice pullback under this 200, but if you look on your weekly chart, once again, that's your weekly 50 that we're sitting on, and we've been struggling to take that out. So this is why we seriously need to check for support and resistance, and that will help the probabilities of the patterns working. Dollar Tree, you can see a downward sloping here, not perfect. Come back up. you know, After breaking out, comes back up, and we see this a lot with them, and then trending down. And we could see this go into a downtrend. We can definitely do another video later just to see how these video or how the patterns performed. DVAX. You can see this small. This is a daily time frame. You can see this small head and shoulders pattern here, very close to a level neckline and breaking down. This one you had some volume here on the way up. Not a lot through here, but we did have volume here on the way down when it breaking out of the pattern, and then you had some volume to try to propel it back up here. So volume characteristics are not perfect. We did see some volume on this one when it comes to breaking down. So as you can see, there's just no cut and dry way to trade these. So this is the cues. You would normally expect a s- your bigger patterns to give you bigger moves, your smaller patterns to give you smaller moves. But we called the top on one of our trends up because of this head and shoulders pattern. It's downward sloping. You can see we took it out with some volatility, trended down well, but you can also see we come back up testing the neckline area and then down, up. So this is a way a lot of these will trade. They like flag back up to your moving averages, push back up to your moving averages. And not understanding that can easily get you stopped out. So for me, I'm just not the one that wants to enter here and ride through all this pain. I can see riding down here on the way back up. You need to be looking at taking your profits because there's a good chance you can get back in and get some more profits. But there's no need to give your profits up. This would probably stop a few people out pushing back up like that. So I'm just not one to get in these any patterns or any charts and park. I believe in taking profits on the way down. When it flags back up, look for another entry there for another move down. Or if we're heading up, in a bullish pattern. That's just the way I think. Over a series of trades, you squeeze a lot more money out of these charts. You may get big winners here and there, but over the series of trades, you squeeze a lot more money by catching these moves. KE Holdings. You can see we have a level neckline here. This is a decent little head and shoulders pattern, but the way this gapped up, this may not be one of the better performers. Now it could be. You got volume just loaded in here, so we definitely got some volume characteristics and a lot going on in this pattern. Your shoulders are not far off. There's not a lot of difference between the peaks here, and the size of the shoulders are both fairly small. A good, sharp, rounded head. So you have a good pattern here. I would have just preferred this to have found this pattern in a slower trend up instead of just gapping. So it's definitely on watch right now. In a This is an NDAQ, and I talked about this one last week, a downward sloping. I prefer the downward slopings because they break out. They usually break out with some volatility, and I just feel like I get a better move down, better probabilities of the trade working, at least in this market. So this is service now. We posted this back in November, October of last year. Um, and then, so this is the weekly time frame, and then you can see how it broke out, flag, breakout, flag, breakout, flag. So just a series of bear flags on the way down. And of course, we would have never have thought they got this big of a move out of that pattern. The size of the pattern. And this is BTU. We were watching for a possible move up here, and we were unable to get it. We broke down upward sloping, a nice pullback here. I would possibly look for a push back up and a retouch or a reconnect before looking for a move down here. UNG, this is just like the natural gas chart that we talked about at the beginning of the video. You got decent highs here in your peaks, so they're close to the same. One shoulder is a little fatter than the other shoulder. Got plenty of volume in there, so we could pick up some volume characteristics if we looked really hard. But you can see this give us a nice move down. But you can see breaking out, flagging up, flagging up. This is just the way that Head and Shoulders trades, and understanding that is huge. A unity. So this was one that we were watching on this gap up, took it off the charts, took it off the videos, and it formed a small Head and Shoulders pattern, upward sloping, nice breakout, nice move down. It's worth keeping an eye on here, see if we can get a move up. We could see a retest and a further move down. We could, it could go to all new highs. I mean, don't get me wrong. I doubt it, but don't get me wrong. So we are looking here at VMC, and I figured I would do a couple that maybe we could draw. So do you see it? Is it looking a little clearer now? Now we don't have the best shoulder there because that was that CPI day. And I'm just going to pretend like I have on several other charts that that CPI candle never formed. So your head right there. And let's do this one more time. So like I say, I'm going to pretend that CPI candle never formed because on a lot of charts, it messed up a lot of patterns, changed a lot of things up. And then, we were looking at moves down at the time and still continuing to move down. So let's just pretend that CPI candle's not there. Uh, sorry. Yeah, CPI. So you can see right here without that candle, shoulders are fairly decent, upward sloping, and we're starting for a move down. Uh, Sometimes like that candle there makes this a non-textbook pattern. A lot of stuff is non-textbook and can perform very well. I normally don't do stuff like that, but I like the chart and it was a harder one to spot. And I'm hoping you guys can go back, take a look at it, and then come in, check it again. Let's take out another look at another one like that. So do you see it? This one hopefully is a little clearer. Once again, this one's not super textbook, but we've just looked at some patterns that perform very well that were not super textbook. Depending on the bear market or depending on the market conditions, has a lot to do with what type of patterns are performing. Obviously, bullish and bearish. So if we take, and like I say, it's not super textbook, but we can always come back and see how well it performs. See, I don't like at all, and just being honest here, I don't like this head at all. I mean, at all. But it still may work. And then this last shoulder here. So in this case, you have a downward sloping head and shoulders pattern. I'm not crazy about that being flat, but this pattern could still work and still perform very well. Definitely doesn't hurt to put it on the watch list. Keep an eye on it. And that's BNL. And Wednesday.com. So can you see it? It's not finished. This one's not quite finished yet. Let's draw it out. So there's your neckline. That can count as a shoulder. That can count as a head. And possibly putting in another shoulder here. Like I say, MACD's bearish. These don't perform super well. I like to see them. I can't state this enough. I'd like to see them trending up instead of just gapping up. But that's another one that we can keep an eye on. Some people may, already start calling out a shoulder. I want to see it come back down, and obviously, it's got to take the neckline out. Without a confirmation, without taking the neckline out, it's just a bundle or group of candles. And this is one that so far, WMB got your neckline, shoulder, head, shoulder, broke down out of the neckline, pushed back up, retesting this. So far, this pattern, is basically a false breakout. We will see how it performs. There's a good chance we could see a push up. So, even though this is a false breakout, you can look at it as a high, a lower high, a lower high. So keep getting these series of lower highs. Will we see the lower low come in? And we could see this, basically lower high and bear flagging its whole way down. Still worth keeping an eye on. So this is back to natural gas. This concludes our video for today. I hope we can find this helpful. Please keep in mind, trading is a game of probabilities. The patterns, the charts, everything is a game of probabilities. If you would like to learn more about patterns, we have a guide section in the Facebook group where there's a lot of charts that I post in there, and you can go in there and train your eyes for the patterns. The group's absolutely free. Uh, Hope everybody has a great day. Let's start out with a nice new fresh year this year. See you in the trading room.